A tennis player who was ranked outside the world's top 100 just 18 months ago now has her face towering over one of the most expensive advertising markets on the planet. Nike has placed Alex Eala across New York City in the days leading into the 2026 U.S. Open, an outdoor placement that brands typically reserve for athletes with years of proven commercial pull, not a 21-year-old from the Philippines who broke through only this year. For a country with almost no history at the top of professional tennis, the image is jarring enough to stop people mid-stride. To understand how she got there, the story has to start well before the billboards went up. Alexandra Maniego Eala was born on May 23, 2005, in Quezon City, Philippines. She stands 1.75 meters or 5 feet 9 inches and plays left-handed with a two-handed backhand. Her mother, Rosemary, competed for the Philippines in swimming at the Southeast Asian Games, and it was her grandfather who pushed her and her brother toward tennis, driving them to Valle Verde Country Club and holding court hours before school, let out just to secure time on the facility's single hardcourt. At age 12, in 2018, Eala left home to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca, alongside her brother Michael, and she has spent much of the year since based there. Her junior career carried the first signs of what was coming. In 2022, Eala won the girls' singles title at the U.S. Open, defeating Mira Andreeva 6-4, 6-0 in the quarterfinals along the way, and becoming the first Filipino player, man or woman, to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. She also captured the Australian Open girls doubles crown in 2020 and the French Open girls doubles title in 2021, and she reached a career-high junior combined ranking of world number 2. What followed, though, was a grinding stretch through qualifying draws. In 2024, she lost in the final round of qualifying at the French Open, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open, and she entered the 2025 Miami Open ranked number 140 in the world. That week became the turning point. Eala, given a wild card, beat Katie Volinets, then 2017 French Open champion Jelena Ostapenko, then reigning Australian Open champion and world number 5 Madison Keys 6-4, 6-2 for her first career win over a top 10 player. In the quarterfinals she faced Iga Swiatek, then ranked number 2 in the world, and beat her 6-2. 7-5 to reach the semifinals. It made her the first Filipino player in the Open era to defeat a top 10 opponent since WTA rankings began in 1975, and the first Filipina to break into the world's top 100. "I'm in complete disbelief right now. I'm on cloud 9, Eala said afterward. Later that year she reached her first WTA Tour final at Eastbourne, won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, and, at the 2025 U.S. Open, beat Denmark's Clara Tauson in the first round to record the first Grand Slam main draw singles win by a Filipino player in the Open era. Then came August 3, 2026. Eala reached the final of the Mubadala DC Open, a WTA 500 event in Washington, after wins over Zheng Qinwen, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, number 3 seed Naomi Osaka, and number 2 seed Alina Svitolina. Her opponent in the final was top seed and world number 3 Jessica Pegula. Rain suspended the match on Sunday with Pegula leading 6-4, 1-2, and play resumed the following day. Eala won the second set 6-4 and closed out the third 6-0, completing a 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 comeback in 1 hour and 45 minutes of court time. It made her the first player from the Philippines, man or woman, to win a WTA Tour-level singles title. To all my supporters, especially the Filipino community, here in DC and back home, and wherever you are in the world, I feel all the love, Eala said afterward. The result pushed her to a career-high ranking of world number 20. A month earlier, at Wimbledon, Eala had already delivered the signature win of her season. On July 4, 2026, the number 29 seed faced defending champion and number 3 seed Iga Swiatek in the third round on center court. Eala won a tightly contested first set tiebreak 11-9 and closed out the match 7-6, 9, 6-2. Becoming the first Filipino player, man or woman, to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. She advanced to the fourth round, where Jasmine Paolini ended her run 4-6, 6-4, 3-6. Even in defeat, Eala had become the first Filipino in the Open era to reach the round of 16 at Wimbledon, surpassing third-round finishes by Philippine tennis figures from decades earlier. With all of this history piling up in real time, it became easy for the story to outrun the facts. In 2025, posts began circulating across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok claiming that Wilson Sporting Goods had offered Eala a $45 million endorsement deal, which she had supposedly accepted. Fact-checking organizations Verifiles and Rappler both confirmed the claim was false, tracing it to pages that had built large followings around Eala's name and were monetizing fabricated stories with AI-generated images. There was no Wilson deal. A separate claim, that Eala had received a multi-billion-dollar offer from an Abu Dhabi businessman tied to a proposed tournament, was also debunked by fact-checkers in February 2026. Eala's real sponsors at the time were Nike, Babolat, Globe Telecom, and the Bank of the Philippine Islands. Against that backdrop, an actual Nike campaign of this scale lands differently. It is not another unverified rumor circulating on social media. It is a decision made by one of the largest sportswear companies in the world. And professional tennis has not made the path smooth even now. Despite the string of milestones, Eala has also absorbed difficult losses along the way, including a second-round exit to Christina Buxa at the 2025 US Open and setbacks earlier in 2026. Reminders that her run, however historic, is still a young one measured in months rather than years. That contrast is exactly what makes Nike's decision worth examining. Outdoor advertising in New York City, particularly around a Grand Slam, ranks among the most expensive marketing real estate on earth, and brands typically reserve that space for athletes with a long track record of moving product and holding public attention across seasons, not years-old rumors or a single breakout summer. Eala's results, judged strictly, still describe a promising newcomer. One WTA Tour Singles title, one Grand Slam fourth round, and a ranking inside the top 20 for the first time only weeks ago. Nike's placement, by contrast, describes something closer to a franchise player. The timing explains part of the bet. The 2026 US Open runs from August 23 through September 13, and Eala enters it off the back of her Washington title, her Wimbledon breakthrough, and a rise to a career-high world number 18 as of August 25, 2026, a mark that made her the highest-ranked Southeast Asian player in WTA history, surpassing the previous best of number 19 held jointly by Yeok Basuki of Indonesia and Tamarine Tanasugar of Thailand. Nike is not betting on a hypothetical. It is betting on a player whose trajectory, across the single calendar year, has moved faster than almost anyone else on tour, and it is placing that bet at the exact moment New York's attention turns to the US Open. The campaign is not just about visibility, either. It is layered with deliberate cultural symbolism. For the 2026 US Open, Nike built Eala a custom kit, a royal blue Nike court slam dress priced at $140, and her first ever signature piece, a $42 black Nike court Alex Eala t-shirt featuring floral artwork and her name in script across the back. Ahead of her Wimbledon debut earlier in the year, Nike sent her a white gift box lined like a miniature tennis court, containing a hair tie designed around the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines. Eala shared the moment on Instagram along with the note that came with it. The sampaguita, the flower of my country, a reminder of where I come from and everything that brought me here. Nike's own message inside the box invoked a Tagalog proverb about patience and growth. Kung may tainanam, may anahin. What you plant, you'll one day reap. Speaking later about incorporating Filipino elements into her fashion, Eala explained, "It is a way for me to pay tribute to my culture. It's a slight nod to where I come from. On the other hand, it's also because I genuinely think it's really beautiful." In a sport whose imagery has long been built around private clubs and inherited wealth, a national flower stitched into hair accessories, and a proverb tucked into a gift box function as a quiet but pointed statement about who gets to belong on that stage. That symbolism does not stay contained to New York. The Philippines has produced global sporting icons before, most notably Manny Pacquiao in boxing, but tennis had almost no comparable infrastructure or access, and for most of the sport's history there was no Filipino player with a WTA ranking at all. Pacquiao himself has weighed in on Eala's rise. After her DC Open win, he wrote that her comeback showed the heart of a Filipino and called her our new champion. Filipino crowds have followed Eala across continents throughout 2026, waving flags and filling stands from the Australian Open in Melbourne, where thousands queued for a match on an undersized court, to Washington, where chants for her reportedly outweighed those for the American players sharing the draw. Reporting on the New York billboards has framed local Filipino community reaction in similar terms, with fans reportedly organizing informal visits to see the images in person. Back home, the effect has been just as tangible. Tennis clubs across Manila and Cebu have reported fully booked courts and rising enrollment in junior programs since her breakthrough, a shift Eala has welcomed publicly, noting that when she was younger, court access itself was one of the biggest obstacles facing young Filipino players. In July 2026, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. honored Eala with a presidential citation at Malacanang Palace, describing her as a source of national pride. Yet for all of the attention, Eala has been consistent about keeping the noise separate from the job in front of her. Asked at a pre-tournament press conference at the Cincinnati Open whether she prepares differently depending on where she is playing, she said, "I think at the end of the day, it's the same lines, it's the same size ball. When you're on court and you know what you have to do, nothing changes much." That mindset will be tested immediately. The 2026 U.S. Open draw is set to be revealed on August 27th. The same day Eala is scheduled to appear in the Stars of the Open exhibition at Arthur Ashe Stadium alongside fellow rising players including Iva Jovic, Marta Kostyuk, Joao Fonseca, Lerner Tien, Alex Mickelson, Arthur Fils, and Amanda Anisimova. She enters as a seeded player and a genuine threat, not an underdog carrying a feel-good story. Analysts remain split on what her rise actually signals for Filipino sport more broadly. Some point out that her visibility has already outpaced her results, since a single Grand Slam fourth round and one WTA Tour title, however historic domestically, do not yet place her among the sport's true elite. Others argue that results have driven every step of this, from the win over Swiatek at Miami in 2025 to the title over Pegula in Washington, and that the visibility is simply catching up to what she has already done on court. Either way, Eala's position heading into New York has changed. She is no longer only a story about a country with no tennis history producing an unlikely contender. She is a phenomenon with real stakes attached, carrying a nation's expectations into the tournament, where she once won a junior title as a teenager. Which brings the story back to that billboard. Days before a ball is struck at Flushing Meadows, an image of a 21-year-old from Quezon City looks out over one of the most competitive advertising markets in the world, placed there by a company that does not make bets like this lightly. Whether this becomes the moment Filipino athletes finally break into the global sporting spotlight, or a single, perfectly timed marketing moment that fades once the tournament ends, is still an open question. What happens on court over the next 2 weeks will likely decide the answer. Subscribe for continued coverage of Alex Eala's run through the 2026 U.S. Open.